Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the inaugural episode of Cricket Spectacle. Feels good to be back on the other side of the table asking questions. Thank you, Dan and Nikhil, for joining me. For our viewers, Dan is from Brisbane, Australia. He's a sports romantic and has vast experience in sports writing. Nikhil too is based in Australia. He's a content marketer, an ardent fan of cricket, football, and has a soft corner for Manchester United. Over a period of time, we'll try and talk about the game in general, the happenings, both present and past, and a lot more. So let's get started. And we are going to discuss the IPL auction, which took place last week, and the upcoming pink ball test, and a bit of the Australia-New Zealand T20I series. So, Dan, I'm going to start with you. We
Yes.
actually witnessed the IPL auction. We saw that there were a couple of Australians who were bought for huge amounts by respective IPL franchises, and then we also had a New Zealander who was actually bought for a big sum. So, what do you think? What were the standout buys for you at this auction?
Well, Jai Richardson was definitely the big surprise amongst a lot of the Australian audience. Jai he was currently the leading wicket taker in BBL 10 for the Perth Scorchers. I think he had 26 or 27 wickets, and I mean, he's a good young quick bowler. He's not your traditional type of Australian quick bowler, not someone who's tall and big like your Mitchell Starks, your Pat Cummins, your Josh Hazelwood. He's a smaller frame type of guy, and he's a skinny type of bowler as well. But he can before his shoulder injury, he could bowl an outswinger at 140 plus clicks. So it looks like now he's just sort of starting to get that confidence back after a couple of bad seasons with injuries. And then I think obviously Riley Meredith was the other big surprise. Meredith, there's a lot of things to be expected from him amongst Australian cricket. He is the next big thing. He's got a terrific mustache as well. So he looked like a genuine bowler who bowls at over 150 k's an hour. Then at the other end of the scale, Steve Smith, his big pay cut was a massive surprise to a lot of Australians. Everyone knows what a quality player that Smith is, and I think one bad IPL season, it isn't the end of the world for him. So he could be a bargain buy for another franchise, along with Glenn Maxwell as well, who didn't sort of perform in the previous IPL as well, and we'll be looking to sort of bounce back in this stage. Nikhil, what were your thoughts? Do you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. I think Jai Richardson in particular, I wished that I go for RCB actually, the Royal Challengers Bangalore. So I was hoping that we would get Jai Richardson in our team, but apparently we went with Jamieson instead, with all the hype around him recently from the T20 league in New Zealand as well as in the Test cricket, which was expected. RCB in general historically have gone with the hype buys based on form and the hype as such. But Jai Richardson probably is going to be one of the biggest impact makers, if you may, in the coming seasons, this and the next few years as well. For me personally, though, the two biggest or the best buys would be, one is by the Rajasthan Royals, which was Mustafizur Rahim, Fizz as they call him in Bangladesh. Mustafizur Rahman, sorry, and not Rahim. But he's going to be really useful for the Rajasthan Royals, considering Archer had no one to support him in the last IPL. Archer did very well, he usually does, but he had no support from the other end. But now he has Fizz to help him, and Delhi had one good buy in Umesh Yadav, which was like literally no one should have let him go for 1 crore. I mean, that kind of money for an international bowler. I mean, he does concede a few runs, which is understandable considering his pace and the Indian pitches in general, which are batsman friendly. But if you're going to look at a pool of Indian bowlers, I think Umesh Yadav should have been much higher for many teams. And it was a surprise for me that nobody actually went for him and they got him at almost like base price, I think. So I think those two would be my picks as the best ones. And like you mentioned, Steve Smith for 2 crores is like, you're probably getting the best batsman in Test cricket. And it's not just Test cricket, is it? He is a good batsman in all formats. So, and with Ricky Ponting over there and the whole Aussie contention, which is in the IPL, I think this is going to be one of the biggest ones for me personally, because I have my foot in both camps, Australia and India. So I'm really excited for it though.
You can't have both camps. You have to choose a side.
I mean, I've tried. I've been here for like over 4 years now, and I've tried to pick a side. And as long as India is not facing Australia, I am definitely I'm 50-50. I'm on the fence on that. But if India's playing Australia, there's only one team I'm going for. Virat Kohli and the boys. So
Actually, just coming back to Steve Smith, I think you made a very valid point, both of you, that even, I personally think that Steve Smith has been in very fine form in, let's say in the limited overs formats since the start of 2020. Because ever since that, Australia visited India for the 3-match ODI series in early 2020, I think Smith has actually looked a very different player. He has actually gone about his business very well, scored those runs at a quick pace. And that's what we saw, I think, last year before the Test series, that in those 3 ODIs, Smith really, he really, accelerated the scoring. So I think, him just going for let's say 2.2 crores to Delhi Capitals is actually a very, let's say very good bargain buy. So Nikhil, just staying with you. See, there has been a lot of talk about Glenn Maxwell. We all know that, he hasn't really scored at a good pace, or let's say hasn't even scored consistently for the IPL franchises that he has represented in the past. And now he has been picked by Royal Challengers Bangalore for a big amount. So let's say, do you think that, did you actually expect him to go for a big amount this time around?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I personally, I predicted around a 10 crore mark for Glenn Maxwell, but it's the premium price which they have paid, like what RCB have paid. It's not just for the big hitting, right? Like we know Maxi can hit. Like he averages like around 60 at Chinnaswamy Stadium, where the home matches of RCB would have happened this year. If in case they do go ahead, he will still be a huge impact. But even moving ahead, that's the home stadium, right? He has a good average on their home stadium. Plus Glenn Maxwell, right? I mean, you never know what you're gonna get from him, but considering that he bats, bowls, and fields, he's probably one of the best fielders in the world, if not the best in the world. But you look at what RCB as a team needed. They first of all needed an all-rounder, which Maxwell is. He can open the bowling. He opens the bowling in the BBL as well, and he does pretty well. He is a great fielder, and they needed someone as a replacement for ABD when he eventually retires from cricket as well. So that mold of a player like ABD who can single-handedly win you matches is, I don't think there's many out there. Are there many? Like maybe Ben Stokes and Glenn Maxwell, probably. That's about it, isn't it? Like you can't, in limited over cricket, there are not many explosive players remaining, and Glenn Maxwell is one of them, right? So
right.
If you get a combination of batting, bowling, and fielding for 14 crores, if that's the premium price for him, that's fine. But considering the talent pool which was available, and we know that next year there is going to be a major auction where it's a mega auction where everyone is going except like 4-5 of the retained players, right? So if you want to buy people who are a long-term player, Glenn Maxwell would probably be the best buy for RCB at least. And although the price tag will always stay on him and the expectations will be that much higher, obviously, but I think he will deliver. He'll deliver. Hopefully he'll deliver. It's my team. He has to deliver. So let's hope he delivers.
Dan, same question to you.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with Nikhil. I want to see Glenn Maxwell do well. I mean, we all love the Big Show. I mean, he's the sort of player that makes you want to pick up a cricket bat, like Adam Gilchrist used to and go play cricket. And that's the great thing about Maxi. So I think, at some stage we'll see him come good in the next edition.
Right. So I'm just going to go back to the Steve Smith signing here. So Michael Clarke, the former Australia captain, the World Cup winning captain, has actually made a statement that Smith could actually skip the IPL because for the amount that he has been signed by Delhi Capitals, there is a chance that he might actually skip those 11 weeks of the cricket to stay with his family and wife. So do you really, I'm just going to stay with you, Dan, and ask you that, do you really think that, Smith could actually do this? But, let's say given that the World Cup, the World T20 this year is going to be held in India, and IPL could actually be a good platform to prepare yourself for that tournament. So do you think that, Smith could actually skip the tournament?
Yeah, I think we're going to see a lot of players skip this tournament. And one thing that was cited, I think by Jofra Archer on tour right now with England and India, was that a lot of players are starting to experience hub fatigue or quarantine fatigue. So we have to remember each player that travels to a tournament, they're looking at approximately 14 days of hard quarantine arriving, and then also 14 days of hard quarantine when they're returning to their home base. So when you take that into consideration, we may see a lot more people drop out of the tournament, as depending on the COVID situation and depending on whether or not the tournament will be played in India or in the UAE.
Same question to you, Nikhil.
Yeah, I think he will not pull out unless there is some COVID-related situation. I mean, if there are hubs, or consider this, right? Like, he's probably one of the greatest players in the world, and he is going to be paid around 325K Australian dollars to play for 11 weeks plus the quarantine period either side. Right. Is it really worth it for Steve Smith is what most people are asking, right? That's the real question. Personally, I don't think he'll pull out for the monetary reason, but if you really put it like from a human perspective, for him to go through all that, and he'll probably not, unless he's playing all the games, does it even make sense for him to go? That's another question. So if the team management probably reach out to him and they guarantee him that he's going to play most of the matches as long as he's performing well, I think he'll go ahead, because like you said, if the T20 World Cup is in India and you are getting a chance to play on those pitches and get accustomed to, and this could be one of the years where Australia win a World Cup because they have a good team. All the big hitting players are there. Maxi is there, Stoinis, all the big stars are ready to win a World Cup. The bowling lineup is there, everything is there. So absolutely, for Smithy, I think he would go ahead, provided he gets some assurances from the team, as well as it's worth his while. That's the reason, because we don't consider the human element of it at times. We just think that players should just do things. But you step back and you think, like, as a player of his caliber, he has earned the right to decide whether or not he wants to play for that money as such. So I think he would. But yeah, you never know with the current situation with COVID and the quarantine and stuff. You might see him drop out, but I really hope he doesn't, though.
Yeah. See, of course, there is this thing that, of course, it's going to be a personal decision. But I think overall, if you really look at the Delhi Capitals' squad, so it's very difficult for someone like Smith to find a place in the 11 consistently, because you actually have those good finishers like Marcus Stoinis, Shimron Hetmeyer. Then you also have two pretty good fast bowlers, Kagiso Rabada and Rick Nokia. So I think, and the top order is also heavily stacked. You have Prithvi Shaw, Shikhar Dhawan, then you have the captain Shreyas Iyer and Rishabh Pant coming in. So it might be a little difficult, but let's say, if there are some assurances that, yes, you're going to get, sufficient game time throughout the tournament, who knows, because I also personally feel here that IPL is actually a great platform to, prepare for the T20 World Cup, which is actually going to held in actually going to be held in India later this year. So yeah, even I also really hope that he does not skip this. So Nikhil, just staying with you here, no Sri Lankan players were signed this year in the IPL, and there have been very few, signed in recent auctions too. Also, only one West Indies player was signed at the auction, and that was Fabian Allen by Punjab Kings. Historically, we have seen that the Windies players get bids, and even Sri Lankans too. But what do you think? Why didn't they get bids this time around?
I think one of the reasons or one of the main strategies of most of the teams were that this is going to be a one season signing, isn't it? Like most of them are going to be one season. They're not going to be retained. So if you're not going to retain someone, you probably would not sign them for big money. And I don't think there's any player in Sri Lanka right now who would make most of the teams as a foreign player with the cap of 4 players, right? They wouldn't make it into the 11. And if you're not going to make it into the 11, you are probably not going to be retained next season as well. So for them to, it's not a reflection on the player's caliber itself. It's a lot of it goes into the strategy of it as well. You'll see a ton of players being signed next year in the mega auction, because that's when people will regroup. They'll have their own setups, because if you retain 4 players, then you have like a whole bunch of money. You have to start from scratch and stuff like that. But this year there it wasn't. Like most of the teams, like take for example Sunrisers Hyderabad, they signed like 3 players, right? So if they already have their targets, then they don't need to look elsewhere. They knew 1, 2, 3 players we need. That's the mold. These are the players. We are going to get them. We have a kitty of money to spend. They did that. They got them. They just laid back. They had nothing else to do. So, and that was the strategy for many teams as well. Like if it's an easy buy for one season, let's do it, get it, and go. West Indies players in general have been really good in IPL, right? There's no denying that. T20 cricket and West Indies go hand in hand. They are like the darlings of the world when it comes to it. But yeah, this season again, that's the only thing that if you can't make the 11, you probably wouldn't have gotten it. So there would be a few cheaper options in terms of Indian replacements who could even get a few games and without sacrificing the foreigner spot, which is probably the strategy which most teams went with, and hence by default, the Sri Lankan and West Indian players didn't get it. But next year, again, they are going to be back, and we'll see a few coming into the teams.
All right. Dan, what do you think of the same?
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I mean, the West Indian players have always been some of the best performing players on the T20 circuit. Historically, you look at the likes of Breakaway, Holder, oh my God, the name is Ken Roach as well. Chris Gale, Samuels, who can forget Samuels versus Warne, one of the T20 moments in world cricket as well. At the same time, you're going to see a lot of Sri Lankan players sort of come back too. I mean, with having a subcontinent World Cup, and I mean, once with the hub kicking in, you'll see a lot of dropouts, and you'll see a lot of players from Sri Lanka also sort of take those open slots in a few teams, I think.
Right. I think, there's this one thing that I also feel that it's also got to do more with the kind of pace bowling all-rounders, or let's say the pace bowlers that Sri Lanka is not producing, let's say nowadays. It's also got to do with the quality of those, because we saw with these, IPL teams this time around, they actually went after the fast bowlers and the fast bowling all-rounders. Case in point, Kylie Jamieson, Chris Morris, Dan Christian even, who really did well, in the BBL this time. So yeah, I think that's also got to do with the fact that, Sri Lanka haven't really produced those, maybe, those quality fast bowling all-rounders, or maybe the all-rounders that could actually prove to be handy for them, handy for their team. So yeah, that could be one of the reasons. Okay, so moving on, prediction time, guys. So Dan, staying with you, which IPL team do you think looks the strongest on the papers? And then
Oh,
we'll go to Nikhil.
oh my God, that's a tough one. Delhi. I mean, Mumbai will definitely be there again as well. The Sunrisers for me, like any team that has David Warner as well, is also going to be a danger. But at this early stage of the competition, I'd say it's very difficult to look past Mumbai.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
Yep.
probably I would have gone with Mumbai as well, because realistically they could play everyone they played last year and still win the title. I mean, is there any replacement they needed? They didn't even, like, the domination with which they showed last year. It's going to continue, and it will be really hard for anyone to beat them. I think Sunrisers, like Dan mentioned as well, with if you have David Warner and Rashid Khan in the same team, so that's probably the and probably one of the, not one of the best T20 spinner in the world. So if you add that, and probably add Bhuvneshwar Kumar, who's a good T20 bowler, and isn't Besto with SRH as well, right?
Yes,
Like,
he is. He is.
he's so yeah, they have the firepower, and yeah, if I had to pick a second favorite after Mumbai, it would probably be SRH though.
Right. I think my personal favorite here is also SRH because of the way, they have really stacked their squad. I am very, very excited to see someone like Mujibur Rahman bowl in tandem with Rashid Khan. And I think the way they have also, backed their youngsters like Priyam Garg, Abdul Samad, that's also very, I think that's also heartening because you somehow it shows that, they really believe in them. And that also shows that, despite of having a pretty inconsistent season, last time around, though they did, manage to finish third, they actually, have that faith in the core that they really backed. And I really expect that SRH could go the distance this time around because of the way because of bases, because actually I feel that they have all the bases covered this time. And you have backup options in opening, in the middle order, and with the addition of Jason Holder, who actually came in as a replacement for the injured Mitchell Marsh last year. I think that has actually provided that much needed boost and the firepower which is required in the middle order. And in bowling, I think with the addition of Mujibur Rahman, it could actually prove to be, let's say a blessing in disguise for them.
Yeah, they have
So yeah,
Nabi as well, right? Mohammad Nabi
yeah,
as well.
yeah,
So
absolutely.
yeah, and if the tournament goes ahead and with the hub stuff coming in, most of the matches will be played on similar grounds, so on the same grounds as well. So second half of the season, you can see spin probably being the major factor. And if you have Mohammad Nabi, Rashid Khan, and Mujib in the same team, I mean, do you even want to face that team? That bowling lineup will be absolutely dominant.
Oh, it's
So
incredible. It's
yeah,
incredible. And you got to take 10 wickets to win a cricket match. Still, it doesn't matter how long it goes for.
exactly. Rashid Khan could take it in 4 overs if he wants to. So,
And I'll add, one more name to that. Our domestic stalwart, Shahbaz Nadeem. He's also a pretty good spinner, though.
I mean, do you
Oh,
even need him at this point? Like, and they will probably play him because he's Indian, so he doesn't take the foreigner spot. But yeah, I mean, they are loaded. They know what they're doing as well, and not just in terms of the cricketing point of view, the marketing point of view as well. They are trying to capture the whole rise of cricket in Afghanistan as well, by buying all the players in the same, and keeping them in the same franchise as well, which is very interesting in terms of a marketing strategy, because I know all the three can't play at the same time initially,
Right,
at least. Probably in the
right,
second half of the season, maybe they can, with Warner at the top and the other three.
right.
But from what they are doing as a franchise, they know what they're doing. That's the important part, and I think Mumbai would be the one to beat. But as SRH, yeah, like we said, they could be the not the dark horses, even they could be the front runners, wouldn't they? Like with that squad, they should be in there.
Possible, very much possible.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, moving on to some test action, the India versus England test series. So, guys, we all saw what happened in the first two tests with England actually gaining that initial lead, and when India, coming back, making their way back, courtesy all-round show from R. Ashwin,
Spinning our way back into it. Spinning our
spinning
way
their
back
way
into
back.
it.
There's been a lot of talk about the pitch, though, which I really feel
Yeah.
is pretty useless. I think it's just about the skill set here. So yeah, I think now just moving our focus to the ping pong test, which is going to start later this week. So Dan, I'm going to come to you straight. We saw what happened the last time when India played a ping pong test, and
Hmm.
something that the Indian fans wouldn't really like to remember
I
because
don't remember what happened.
because of
Well,
Was
you
it something to do with 36 runs or something? I don't remember it much actually. So.
we know, but look, I mean, a ping ball test is very much like it's still very much a new thing in India. And I mean, India were the first side to lose a ping ball test, batting first. But England don't have a great record in a ping ball test either. Yeah, and that's important to remember. I think Jimmy Anderson will be the big difference, sort of coming back inside for England. I mean, England for me, it's a tough one. And this is just speaking purely as an Australian. Whenever England do something, they're suddenly the best in the world.
Right.
I'm sorry, I'm just not a fan of it at all.
Yeah,
Suddenly,
they are overhyped suddenly, and I understand where you're coming from for sure. Yeah.
I mean, Joe Root, suddenly he's the greatest thing since Donald Bradman. And I mean, people forget that Joe Root couldn't score a century for 12 months. And then, I mean, for me, England to complain about the state of the pitch. I mean, India were able to score runs. Ashwin scored runs.
Right.
And I mean,
England, 600 runs, more than 600.
yeah,
So,
but England themselves, I mean, if you look at they're just as culpable at home as well. I mean, they've had a history of tinkering with pitches. When Graham was in the side, their pitches were straight out of India. But as soon as Anderson and Broad came along, they're producing raging seamers.
yeah.
I mean, they're very much in favour of the English side. Their groundsmen, have to bid for those actual test matches, and the pitches are pretty much done as per Messieurs, Anderson and Broad. And to me, I mean, England haven't picked their best side at all. They're sort of resting players with the T20 World Cup in mind and the Ashes beyond that. And I think it'll generally come and backfire at some stage, maybe not in this series, but maybe later on down the line after all their players have gone to IPL, have done the World Cup and then head to Australia for hopefully will be another 5-0 hammering by the Aussies over England, keeping
I'm
Ashes.
absolutely all for that. Yeah.
Yeah, so to the series, I mean, I'm look for Virat to sort of step up with the batting. I mean, I think he's been unfairly sort of targeted since Adelaide. I like Virat. The older he's gotten, he reminds me a lot of Alan Border. He's mellowed out. His batting's still just as good, but he's mellowed out on the field. He goes and he plays good hard cricket, and that's what I like. And, the English were trying to make something of him having a go at the umpire last test. Nothing in it. Absolutely nothing in it. If it was Ben Stokes, Josh Butler, Joe Root, you would never hear about it. They're angels that walk on water, apparently.
Yeah,
So
anything Kohli does is just like blown out of proportion for sure.
It's blown up like he's Australian. It's sad.
Yeah.
So I think we're going to see a very, very close test. I think the side that wins the toss and bats first is going to be at a very, very big advantage. And I think winning the toss in India is key.
Right. Nikhil, coming.
It'll possibly be. Yeah, it'll possibly be down to who bowls the best in terms of the seamers, though.
Absolutely.
Like if Bumrah and co actually show up. I mean, it is a fact that India now has probably the best bowling lineup in terms of pacers that we have ever had in the history. We have never had such a good pace attack. So if there was ever a time to play a ping ball test, this is the time. So I expect India to still win, but if they win the toss, if not, we can see another fourth innings debacle. I'm really
A
worried about
certain,
that.
a certain man in the Indian cricket team would actually hate to hear about this toss thing from you, because for him it is like toss jai bhad mein. You just
Yeah,
have to
he
go out
can't.
there and win.
I mean, for Kohli to win a toss, I think at one point of time he should just send out someone else to do the toss and just be the captain, but just send someone else to do the toss. He can't buy a toss right now. He can't. So if he has some luck carrying over from last match, then yeah, for sure. But the ping ball test, though, it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun because unlike the last match where England was so heavily underarmed, probably, to is that the word to use, probably, with the spinning pitch and stuff. This would be a bit more even. And if they lose this, who are they going to blame, right? Like, this is their kind of pitch. This is the seaming conditions. The pink ball, it will swing a lot more and seam a lot more than the red one. So if they lose this, then they just have to raise their hands and say that India was the better team. But at the same time, you're going to hear a lot about the second test if they do go on to win, and then they're just going to blame the pitcher. So let's hope it's not a draw. But yeah, I'll go with India. And actually, I'll go with whoever wins the toss first, actually. So given what we have seen so far, both the teams struggle with the pink ball. So if you want to get the advantage, putting up a big first innings score would be the way to go.
Nice. Nikhil, just staying with you. So what do you think, would there be any team changes in, both the setups for the...
England probably would.
Would you really persist
India,
with someone like Oli Stone, given that he really did well in the second test?
I mean, I personally would not like judge him a lot on just one test, but if someone's doing well, you might as well give them a continued run. I always believe in continuing with people who are doing well, because there's the whole confidence element to it, right? Like, if at this point you take him out of the team, what does it say for the player?
Absolutely.
So might as well play him, and I'm pretty sure he'll do well. It's not going to be, he won't perform badly. So, but if he doesn't click, then you have an actual reason to probably think about getting him out. But for now, just continue with him. But I think England will make some changes. It just depends on what their strategy would be in terms of rest and whatever the reasons they're giving for not playing the best 11. But if they play the best 11, this would be a great opportunity for them in terms of conditions and pitch and the pink ball and stuff. So maybe they will, yeah.
Right. And any changes in the Indian lineup?
No, probably not. I mean, there might be one. They might take out one of the spinners and play an extra seamer if the conditions require it to. But do you even need to at this point? Again, when you're winning, just continue what's working. And there will still be some spin. I still think that there will be some spin. The pink ball will skid along on the pitch as well. So they could actually go with the same team, but I personally would get one extra seamer just in case, because given the whole injury factor which is going on in the Indian team, which we saw in the Australian test as well, one seamer gone on a seaming pitch is very bad. So at least have one extra in the bag in case something happens.
Right. Okay. Dan, a quick comment from you. What do you think, would be the result of this test? Your bold prediction.
Look, ideally, I think England might end up winning the series 2-1, or I'm going to say a 2-2 draw. And the reason for that is it's a pink ball test. And historically, India have struggled in the pink ball. And for me, the way Jimmy Anderson is bowling, You know, hats off. You know, for a 38-year-old, he's doing all right. So will we see Anderson until he's 40? I don't think so. I think he'll end up retiring in Australia, like Matt Pryor, Kevin Peters, Stuart Cook, and a few others. But at the same time, I think we're going to see a very, very closely thought test. And I think if England get their noses in front, they're going to be very, very hard to beat. Their batting is very much dependent on what Joe Root does. You know, their openers are still very brittle at this stage. You know, Root needs to bat at 3 to keep that order together, sort of what Steve Smith did for a while for Australia, but we won't see that from England. They'll play conservative. I think Ben Stokes batting at 4 is way too high. But at the same time, Jofra Archer comes back into the side, you know, and he's another quality bowler.
Right.
But for me, you know, yes, he bowls quick, but he doesn't have the durability of an Anderson. So Anderson and Broad with that pink ball could be a bit of an X factor for me. I think India are going to go with an unchanged side. You don't, if it's not broken, you don't, you keep it. And you know, India was sensational in the last test, and you know, hopefully we'll see a cracking contest in the third test.